The story of the Ottoman Empire's 600 years of power and collapse for over 6 centuries. One empire stood at the crossroads of the world, connecting East and West, uniting faith and power, and shaping history like no other. From the deserts of Arabia to the gates of Vienna, its armies marched under a single crescent banner. Its sultans ruled with iron and faith, its palaces glittered with gold, and its name struck fear and awe across 3 continents. This is the story of the Ottoman Empire's 600 years of power, glory, and collapse. It all began not in a palace, but in the rugged hills of Anatolia around the year 1299. In the dying days of the Seljuk Sultanate, small Turkish tribes fought for survival against Mongols, Byzantines, and each other. Among them was a chieftain named Osman I, son of Ertugrul. From his name came the word Ottoman Osmanli. Osman's dream was more than tribal conquest. He envisioned a state guided by Islamic faith, governed by justice, and built on warrior discipline. He gathered Ghazi's holy warriors and began expanding his small principality westward, capturing Byzantine fortresses and trade routes. By the time of his death, his dream was taking shape, a tiny state that would soon dominate the world. His successors, Orhan and Murad I, turned that dream into empire. They captured Bursa, making it their first capital, and crossed into Europe into the Balkans, where they would remain for centuries. In 1389, at the Battle of Kosovo, the Ottomans defeated a coalition of Balkan princes. The Balkans fell under Ottoman control, and Murad I was killed, but the path to empire was open. His son, Bayezid I, called the Thunderbolt, expanded the empire at lightning speed. But ambition met fate when he faced Timur the Lame, the Conqueror from Central Asia. At the Battle of Ankara 1402, Bayezid was defeated and captured. The empire seemed doomed, shattered, and leaderless. But out of this chaos, one man would rebuild it stronger than before. After a decade of civil war, Mehmed I restored order. Then came his son, Murad II, who consolidated Ottoman lands in both Asia and Europe. But it was Mehmed II, known to history as Mehmed the Conqueror, who would define the empire's destiny. From childhood, Mehmed dreamed of taking the greatest city in the world, Constantinople, the jewel of the Byzantine Empire. For over 1,000 years, that city had stood unconquered, protected by immense walls and Christian faith. In 1453, Mehmed, at just 21 years old, surrounded it with an army of over 80,000 men and the largest cannons ever built. For 53 days, the city resisted, but on May 29, 1453, Constantinople fell. The world changed forever. The Byzantine Empire was no more. The Ottoman Empire became the new superpower, heir to both the Islamic Caliphate and the Roman legacy. Constantinople was renamed Istanbul and became the empire's capital, the city of the world's desire. Mehmed restored its population, built mosques and markets, and declared it the center of a new world. The conquest marked not only the fall of the Middle Ages, but the dawn of a new Islamic Golden Age. After Mehmed's death, the Ottomans entered a period of consolidation. Sultans like Bayezid focused on rebuilding trade, law, and religious institutions. The empire stretched across Anatolia, the Balkans, and the Black Sea, but the true Golden Age began under one man, Suleiman the Magnificent. Ascending the throne in 1520, Suleiman became not just a conqueror, but a lawgiver, poet, and patron of the arts. Under his rule, the Ottoman Empire reached its zenith. His armies captured Belgrade, Rhodes, and most of Hungary. They besieged Vienna in 1529, the very heart of Europe. In the east, they conquered Baghdad and fought the Safavid Empire of Persia. In the south, they ruled the holy cities of Mecca and Medina, making the Sultan both emperor and caliph of Islam. Suleiman's reign was also marked by deep reforms. He codified laws known as the Qanon, blending Islamic Sharia with administrative justice. He created a merit-based bureaucracy that spanned from Cairo to Sarajevo. His chief architect, Mimar Sinan, built mosques and palaces that still define Istanbul's skyline. Under Suleiman, the Ottoman Empire was not just feared, it was admired. But beneath the splendor, shadows began to grow. When Suleiman died in 1566, he left an empire of unmatched wealth and power, but also an unstable inheritance. His successors lacked his vision. The harem, once the private residence of the Sultan's family, became the empire's political battleground. Sultans' mothers, known as valid sultans, and palace eunuchs began to wield immense power behind the throne. Rivalries turned deadly. Brothers were often executed to prevent civil war, a grim Ottoman tradition known as fratricide. Later, princes were locked in the cage caves, confined for life to prevent rebellion-producing rulers isolated from reality. The Janissaries, once elite soldiers loyal only to the Sultan, became corrupt and politically ambitious. They resisted reform, interfered in succession, and even revolted when their privileges were threatened. Meanwhile, in Europe, new powers were rising. Spain, Portugal, and later Britain began exploring and trading by sea, bypassing the old Ottoman-controlled land routes. The empire's economic lifelines began to weaken. The 1600s marked the slow shift from expansion to survival. The Ottomans fought endless wars against Persia in the east, Austria in the north, and Russia in the Black Sea. In 1683, they made their last great attempt to conquer Europe. A massive Ottoman army laid siege to Vienna once more. But this time, the Christian coalition led by Polish King John III Sobieski crushed them. The defeat at Vienna marked the beginning of the empire's long decline. In the Treaty of Karlowitz, 1699, the Ottomans lost Hungary and parts of the Balkans. The empire, once unstoppable, was now being pushed back. Inside the empire, corruption spread. Local governors, called pashas, became semi-independent rulers. Tax collection turned into exploitation, but even in decline, the empire adapted. The 18th century saw cultural revival, the Tulip era, a time of art, gardens, and diplomacy. Istanbul glowed with beauty and elegance, even as its power faded abroad. The Ottomans learned from Europe, adopting printing, engineering, and military science. But the world was changing faster than they could reform. The 19th century would test the empire like never before. Nationalism, the idea that each people should rule themselves, began tearing the empire apart from within. In 1821, Greece revolted and, after a brutal war, gained independence. In the Balkans, Serbs, Bulgarians, and Romanians soon followed. The empire that once united many peoples now faced rebellion everywhere. Meanwhile, European powers Britain, France, and Russia saw the Ottomans as the sick man of Europe. They competed to control its territories and influence its policies. But not all was decay. The Tanzimat reforms 1839 to 1876 sought to modernize the empire, creating new schools, laws, railways, and a modern army. Sultans like Mahmud II and Abdülmecid I abolished the Janissaries, built modern ministries, and opened the empire to Western ideas. For a moment, hope returned, yet modernization came at a cost: debt, foreign control, and rising tensions. The empire's provinces drifted away: Egypt under Muhammad Ali, Algeria to France, Tunisia, Libya, and others soon followed. Still, the empire endured, wounded but alive. By the early 20th century, the Ottoman Empire was a shadow of its former self. Its rule extended mostly over Anatolia, the Middle East, and small parts of the Balkans. In 1908, a group called the Young Turks seized power, promising reform and nationalism. They tried to modernize the state, but also suppressed minorities. Then came World War I, the final blow. In 1914, the Ottomans sided with Germany and Austria-Hungary against the Allied powers. It was a gamble, and it would cost them everything. The war stretched their resources thin. In Arabia, a revolt led by Sharif Hussein, supported by the British, broke Ottoman control of the desert. In Palestine, Mesopotamia, and Syria, Allied forces advanced steadily. In 1915, tragedy struck: the Armenian deportations and massacres, one of the darkest chapters in Ottoman history. Millions suffered and perished, leaving deep scars that still echo today. By 1918, the empire collapsed in defeat. Allied forces occupied Istanbul. Arab lands were carved up between Britain and France. The once great Ottoman Empire, which had ruled for 600 years, was no more. But from its ashes, a new nation would rise. In the chaos after World War I, foreign armies invaded Anatolia. But a general named Mustafa Kemal Ataturk led a resistance movement that changed history. Rejecting the old sultanate, he fought for independence and modernity. By 1923, the Republic of Turkey was born secular, national, and modern. The Ottoman Sultanate was officially abolished. The last sultan, Mehmed VI, fled Istanbul on a British ship, ending 6 centuries of dynastic rule. The Ottoman Empire, which once ruled over 30 million people and 3 continents, had vanished, leaving behind a new world order. The Ottoman Empire shaped history in profound ways. It preserved and spread Islamic culture, science, and architecture. It was home to scholars, poets, and builders who created a civilization that blended East and West. It gave the world landmarks like the Blue Mosque, Topkapi Palace, and Hagia Sophia's rebirth. Its legal, administrative, and artistic influences can still be felt from the Balkans to the Middle East, but its fall also left deep divisions, ethnic, religious, and political, that still shape modern conflicts. The empire's story is both a warning and an inspiration. That greatness built on conquest must also be sustained by wisdom. That faith and power must balance justice and change. For 6 centuries, the Ottomans ruled with splendor and strength until the world they built could no longer bear the weight of time. The Ottoman Empire, a tale of ambition, faith, and endurance. From a small Anatolian tribe to the conquerors of Constantinople, and finally, to the dawn of modern Turkey, its story reminds us that empires rise, empires fall, but the echoes of their glory never fade. Subscribe to Historia Memories for more epic stories that shaped our world. Because history isn't just about the past, it's about how we became who we are.